Thank you so much for joining me. For anybody watching, I am Rui Eventide. I am a VTuber with RealCorp VTuber agency, and I am joined today by Trevor Fayle. If you'd like to introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi everybody. I am Trevor William Fayle, the Critical Fayle DM. We are a TTRPG production company who dabbles in all kinds of content. We do podcasts, streams, live events, anything your heart can imagine.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So I wanted to have you on just to talk a little bit about, DMing, D&D specifically, like what the Curse of Strahd module has been like for you so far. Especially because I found you actually on TikTok, and I think a lot of people did,
Yeah,
because
that's where we
you
kind of got our start. Yeah.
yeah, you have like a couple of videos that got majorly popular. And the one that came across my For You page was, I think it was the Where Does Your Fear Live? Was the one that got me.
Oh, sure. Uh-huh. Yeah, when their most recent run-in with Strahd himself. Uh-huh.
Yeah, it was really good. I saw it and I was like, this guy's crazy in a really good way. I knew as soon as you got up out of your chair that shit was real. It was so good. I have to ask, are you a theater kid?
Guilty as charged, yeah. What gave it away?
No, it's okay. I ask because I recognize my own. I was also a
Uh-huh.
theater kid, so it's like the theater kid to D&D pipeline.
It's really strong. It's very, very strong.
Yeah. So why Curse of Strahd? Like what made you want to run that?
Great question. So, it's actually the second time I've ever run through the campaign. The first time I did was during the pandemic, which is really when I came into Dungeons and Dragons largely. I'm relatively new to it, all things considered. I've always been a huge dork,
Mm.
obviously, but for D&D specifically, the pandemic was really my in when I ran it for a group of friends while we were all trapped in lockdown.
Mm.
And I was excited to do it because I love vampires and vampire media. Bram Stoker's Dracula is one of my favorite books. Unironically, I really loved the underworld movies as a kid. It's just always been a big part of my sort of eclectic nerdy understanding, and so I was really excited to get to dive into that world myself and tackle playing the big man. I was just hungry to sink my teeth in, so to speak, to the big villain himself.
That's awesome. Yeah. I totally get that. I am so surprised though that you've only gotten into it like in post-pandemic, like starting in 2020. That's crazy. I would think you've been doing this for years, like years and years.
Well,
Like,
I was really geared for it. I mean, storytelling has always been my greatest love. Like I said, yeah, I was a theater kid. I all throughout grade school and high school, I was in all sorts of plays, and I've been working as a professional stage actor in Philadelphia for the past decade. So
mm.
I was really pretty primed to come in strong here on this most wondrous of role playing games.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. So what so far about Curse of Strahd specifically has been like the most fun for you? Like I've seen the way that you've embodied Strahd, and it's a lot, I don't want to say different, but it's a lot more like you have a very specific vision.
Hmm.
So how did you get there? Like what's the thought process and why did you choose to play him that way?
Yeah, so a big part of my philosophy as a DM is that a lot of my prep work entails coming to a really thorough understanding of the characters in the world that your NPCs are going to come across. And I think what that allows me to do is just know how an NPC would react to any given situation, so that when players come to me, I'm sort of prepared for anything because I just know how they think and feel and their hopes and dreams, what makes them angry, what makes them laugh. Like that's my prep work. Those are the things that I want to understand. Um, and so getting to develop that for an eponymous villain like Strahd von Zarovich is a real treat and a real delight. And I wanted to, you know, sh- portray a really hard-hitting villain, one who, you know, you love to hate, but you also can really understand. You can understand why he makes the choices he makes and understand why he is trapped in the cycles he is. Because even if we know that he as a villain needs to be defeated, it is still fun to be able to understand such a huge character that looms so large in a story.
Was that intimidating at all, stepping into such big shoes of such a well-known villain?
Only exciting. Yeah, I mean, the great thing about Dungeons and Dragons and all sorts of role-playing games like this is that no two campaigns will ever be alike, and I think that's something to be celebrated. I think as DMs and as performers, you know, our voices and our bodies are instruments. You know, and just like with actual musicians, two musicians playing the same instrument will have really different sounds oftentimes. And so it's just a fun way to, it's such a fun sense of self-expression to be able to bring your twist and your imagination and your bend to an iconic character.
Yeah, I totally agree. I've seen a lot of people in this module specifically. I'm actually in a Curse of Strahd campaign on Thursdays, and
Great.
the DM that I'm working with has changed some of the like core components of the game. Have you at all like strayed far from like the canon, or changed anything?
Yeah, great question. And the answer is yes. And I think that is actually the biggest strength of the Curse of Strahd module itself. I'm a huge advocate for Curse of Strahd. It was the first, you know, thing I ever DM'd, so I'm a little biased.
Yeah.
It is a bear and it is a monster and it will take a long time to get through. But that amount of content that it offers you is part of the strength. And equally as strong as what the module does provide for you is what it leaves blank. There are a lot of things that I think the module specifically leaves empty, like the location of the third gem and lots of other stuff like that, where it really leaves things wide and well open for your own homebrew. And so to have this rock solid foundation, something that's so clear and flavorful and fun and scary, to then be an inspiration for your own imaginings and bring in your own characters and events and plot hooks is just a real golden opportunity.
What is your favorite change that you've made to the canon? And I'm gonna put a warning in the description that this isn't a totally safe space for spoilers if you're playing the campaign. But what's your favorite plot twist that you've had so far?
Oh, great. Yeah. Well, so I'll just call to mind a really recent one. Lately, my players just got to Argynvost Holt, which is, as I'm sure you know, it's an exciting location in the campaign. It was a keep of this ancient order of knights who served a dragon and kept the valley safe, and it was really exciting. And a lot of the stuff in there that the module offers is really exciting. Like you have this revenant, you know, knight commander who is now trapped in this, you know, existential prison because he failed to kill Strahd. And you know, it gives you a couple of details to fill in that location. And something that a change that I made was, rather than like this, you know, knight commander, and a squad of revenants under his command, I turned it into a much more personalized story about this knight commander and another knight who, amongst their ranks, whom he loved. And I wanted to like bring the scale down to just two characters rather than a bigger array for our narrative, you know, sort of podcasting storytelling elements. Just have two strong characters rather than a host of sort of faceless ones. And, you know, the book offers just such ample opportunities to do that. And that's what I'm talking about when I say, like, taking the foundations of what's there and shifting it and twisting it to suit what is exciting for you.
Oh, that's awesome. So you have a really interesting cast of characters in that campaign that are wildly different. And one thing that always sticks out to me is that, like, Winnie is like a child.
Yeah.
So how do you how do you handle like having a child in a setting like that?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I'll tell you when Campbell, who plays Winnie on the podcast, came to me, and this is also her first ever D&D experience,
Mm.
as it is for Tyler, who played Artemis. We have a lot of folks who are kind of first to the table, and that's part of what makes I think some of our chemistry so electrifying. But she came to me and said, "Yeah, I think I'm going to play an 11-year-old." And it is a bold choice taking an 11-year-old into Curse of Strahd. But I think the way we have approached it is just really honestly.
Mm.
We haven't put on kid gloves, and we haven't changed any of the harsher aspects of this land that they're in, because there's a kid on board, and it is in fact heightened things. Instead of being a circumstance where you think might create complications, it's only made things better. And Winnie has become her coming of age story in this foggy land full of villains and monsters, has really become a central focus of the campaign in a really exciting way.
Yeah, for sure. I will say I really appreciate that you've stayed honest to the setting and the story and the genre, but you also, I've noticed, you do allow for moments of hope or happiness, and that's a really cool thing, because I've seen a lot of times where either you'll lose like the spooky sort of element, like the gothic element,
Mhm.
or you take a different turn and just completely nosedive into like ultimate like despair.
Mm.
And so yeah, how do you go about maintaining that balance, because you do it very well?
Thank you. Yeah, that's a great question. And to answer it, they really inform each other. The harsh moments of the campaign give way and necessitate the lighter moments. Otherwise, there's no way we would be able to go on.
Mm.
There's like a quote that I've always loved from the first Game of Thrones book is that, we can only be brave when we are afraid. And I think we can only be, and that translates to a lot of different emotions and states of being. I think we can only be hopeful when we are surrounded by darkness, and we can only be joyous when we know what there is at stake to lose. So those moments of levity and connection and just watching our characters exist as they are essential for the narrative, because that lets us know how much there is to lose when we get into the danger.
Yeah, I totally see that. And I love the way that the characters all just interact with each other and the nature of all of their relationships. Like I'm a sucker for like an adoptive father figure. So like Drogar and Winnie just
Uh-huh.
kills me every time.
Oh,
Uh
me too. Me too.
they're
Even as the DM, still. Before we even started the campaign, I looked at Campbell and I was like, I think you and Ned's character are gonna get along. I think there's gonna be an interesting dynamic there, and it has just paid dividends.
there is no bond quite like a
Nothing
girl
quite
and
like
her
it.
adoptive father.
Yeah, it's a girl and her adoptive dragon.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
So, taking a step back from the DM's chair for a second, how does does your DMing at all influence your experience as a player? Like, do you get stuck in like DM brain, or does it change the way you think?
Big time. Yeah. I mean, I enjoy both, really. I don't think that I could, they're just such different experiences, but they do inform each other. And I think what being a DM has helped me with as a player is taking my own agency in campaigns, bringing ideas to the table and offering things, and in a collaborative spirit with the DM, so that the DM doesn't have to be generating everything. I think it can be really powerful as a player to make known your wants and desires and hopes for your character over the course of a campaign. That can be really beneficial to a DM and help them out a ton, and make it more personalized and have more stakes on the line for your character in a campaign.
So you actively encourage like players to be a little bit more vocal about what they want, because I know like myself, I suffer from the like Gen Z like condition of I can't be too much. I can't ask for too much. So it's like I'll turn in like a backstory and it'll be like, here's like 3 bullet points. I'm sorry.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think that hearing from a DM that that's something that DMs want is it's definitely it's helpful for sure.
It can be a great boon, and I think for DMs out there, really do yourself the favor of hearing what your players want and have to say and what they're interested in, because it can give you some great ideas and get you out of a sticky situation if you're ever feeling unsure about what might come next in your campaign. It's a real collaborative process, D&D, and that's the strongest thing about it. Human beings are at their best when we are exchanging ideas. And so, I always say the golden rule at my table is everyone is responsible for everyone's fun. And so that extends to having a dialogue and a conversation between DMs and players about what everybody wants to get out of any given campaign.
That's a really awesome take to have, and it's different from what I've experienced. I've been like around quite a few tables. I've played like with friends or like at bars, or I've done professional DMs, just because like at some point when you're an adult, you gotta just be like, all right, I'll pay the money just for consistency.
Yeah.
But I've seen a lot of times where DMs tend to take a stance of you are responsible for your own fun. And so hearing the everyone is responsible for everyone's it's not something you hear a lot. And
I know, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, go on.
Oh no, please.
I was just, yeah, you are not the first person to experience that, Rui, and absolutely, there's a big element within the D&D community that has a different philosophy, and I don't. There's no really wrong way to play the game, and I don't want to yuck anybody's yum, but I do think allowing for vulnerability and allowing for free interchange and letting players follow what is exciting to them can only benefit any given D&D campaign. And so that's a big part of our mission at CriticalFayleDM, is to change the culture a little bit about this wonderful hobby that we all share, because I just have never seen a tool that can be more beneficial for self-improvement, to help build confidence, to help build community. It is just an almost unparalleled thing. And so, yeah, part of our mission at CriticalFayleDM is to just make it a more inclusive space.
Yeah, and you're definitely accomplishing it just from what I've seen. I'm a fairly recent listener to the Strahdcast. I think I've gotten like just past whenever everybody had like their own individual little sessions with Strahd, which was amazing, by the way.
The dinners with Strahd, yeah,
that was awesome.
Yeah, thank you, that was fun.
That was so cool. Did you come up with that like on the fly, or were you like, I'm just sitting there one day like, you know what? I think it'd be really cool if everybody had like a one-on-one thing with him. Like,
yeah, well, so that was the first time. It wasn't their first introduction to Strahd, but it was the first time that they he invited them to dinner. It was the first time they were getting like real face time with the boss, so to speak. And so I wanted it to stand out. I wanted it to be sort of a special event in the campaign. And so I thought, well, Strahd, I think, has a flair for the dramatics. I think theatrics are something that is important to our count. And so it seemed only natural that he would want to have these sort of personalized sessions to sort of demonstrate like his power and knowledge and understanding of all of our heroes already. And yeah, it led to a unique challenge that sort of each of them had to overcome individually without having the rest of the party there to back them up.
Oh, Strahd is most definitely a theater kid as well.
Big time.
Yeah, my campaign is relatively fresh, but the Curse of Strahd is a cursed module for me specifically. I think I must have started it maybe 2 or 3 times. And every time everybody would always get busy, fall off. So now I've gotten to the point where I'm like, I'm just gonna pay someone to run it every Thursday. Yeah, so we've gotten the invitation to dinner with Strahd, but we have not like encountered him, like spoken to him yet. So that's interesting.
Ooh, well, good luck.
Oh yeah, it's for sure
a wild ride.
It's for sure a wild ride. What was your like inspiration like for everybody's like different things? Because I remember some people were being convinced it's like, oh, you should take my place, or like Winnie had the whole thing with like the scrying on her family. Like what informed those for you?
Great question, and it kind of it circles back to what I was talking about a little bit about, you know, how so much of my prep work is understanding the characters that I am portraying. And so I thought about Strahd, and I thought about Strahd thinking about our heroes, and how he would come up with some sort of. So I thought about like perfectly poetic ways to twist the knife with all of us. In Winnie's case, yeah, she's a little girl far from home. He's like, you know what, I'll send her for a loop. I'll make her think her parents are dead. That'll get her. And then Drogar was like a test of faith, sending visions of lost companions. Kaz had to take care of another kid and had sort of an intellectual puzzle. She had to try to work her way out of where her strength was useless. So they were all meant to test the characters in various ways based on who they were individually.
Kaz's was so good.
Yeah,
the little girl.
Kay and I had a wonderful time playing through that night. We really had a lot of laughs. Our sides were splitting.
Those are so fun to watch. If you had to pick just like a favorite like overall moment, not this is like such like a cheesy question, but like a favorite overall moment, it could be like anything, like something that you did, something that someone else did, or just like a real like moment of like solidarity among your players. Like, what is one thing that has happened so far in that campaign that you're just like, wow, that is it, that is the good thing?
There in the sort of arc where we were dealing with the werewolves, it was the first time where the sort of course of events in the campaign was fully taken out of my hands. They knew the circumstances. They had met the werewolves. They knew what the stakes were. They had had conversations with them. They knew what the setup was. And it was the first time where I really truly just sat back and they made out the whole plan themselves. They executed it and I was along for their ride. And that was a really, really special moment because, like I say, you know, as a DM, I'm all about trying to create agency and allow space for players to live true to both themselves and their characters. And so it's one of the best feelings as a DM when you just, you know, get to sit back and watch them spin their wheels and live in the moment. You know, they were role playing. They weren't meta talking between each other. They were talking to each other as their characters, figuring out how they were going to deal with this plan. And it was very touching to me, just that we had so created this space where we so believed the circumstances that they were just living. It was really special.
Yeah. I have had DMs before be like, when I've asked other DMs about this, they're always like, you know, whenever I just like sit there and I watch you guys do your thing, that's when I'm the proudest. It's never like something I did. It's always something like that their players, whenever they stepped back and the players really carried, that most DMs are like, yeah, that's it.
It's a really good feeling because it means that you've created circumstances that are engaging and believable and heightened and you know, enough to get them to leave everything else behind for a while and just really play. Just get lost. Like, it's so easy to do as a child, to get lost in play, and it gets harder and harder to do as you go on through life. And D&D is such a great thing for that. And yeah, so if you can create the circumstances for true play and then just sit back and enjoy it, it's something very special.
Yeah. Were you a kid that played pretend a lot?
Yeah, I was so blessed to grow up on 11 acres of sort of field and forest land with a river running through it. So, I mean, my brother and I would be out in the field with sticks in our hands, and we were the Rohirrim charging down a line of orcs, or we were, you know, making tunnels through the lilac bushes, catching Pokemon, or we were, you know, yeah, I felt totally free to explore my imagination as a child and had such beautiful surrounds to stimulate and encourage me to do so. So, yeah, it served me well for this venture I've now found myself in.
Yeah, I had something pretty similar. I have a younger sister who's like 2 years apart from me. So I had something along the same lines. And then growing up, whenever I figured out I heard about D&D, I was like, I can do that as like a hobby.
Yeah, a dream come true.
Yeah. So obviously, whenever you get into something like that, and you know it's your first time playing D&D, and you just have all these ideas, what was your first D&D character?
That's a great question. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes.
So the first thing I ever actually played was technically Pathfinder First Edition. We ended up switching to D&D later, but that was a character by the name of Jason Malta, and he was a sorcerer, and I was really into Howl's Moving Castle at the time, and I was so enamored with that notion of, you know, when he casts one too many spells and the feathers come out of his arms and his nails grow long. I was so enamored with that as like a teenager, in college. I mean, so it was that. It was like I had this sort of shadowy character, and anytime he cast one too many spells, or if he started to lose control, this like demonic force, you know, because sorcerers' magic is sort of inherent to their bloodline, so this sort of like demonic element would well up in him. It was very edgy. He was very hot. I was really living my best sad boy dreams.
Oh my God, not the sad dreams.
You better believe.
Oh, I had something so similar. One of my first characters was she was a fallen Aasimar, but she was a blood hunter, Order of the Lycan. I'm out here with a fallen angel werewolf.
Listen, big swings. We love it. That's what we need in D&D.
It's because I watched the 2004 Van Helsing and was like, that's it.
Oh my God. That movie, everyone who knows me is so sick of hearing me talk about that movie because I love it so much. It's a huge inspiration for my Curse of Strahd campaign.
I knew it.
Yeah,
I was watching it and I was like, this is giving 2004 Dracula.
I think that movie is sensational. I mean, though my favorite part of that movie is the brides. They steal the show so comprehensively. Anytime they're on, I want them to have their weird vampire baby army. I want it for them.
Yes. Oh my God. I was listening to just recently the episode where they rescued Irina. And whenever the brides were chasing, I was like, he watched Van Helsing.
Yeah. Guilty.
It's so good though.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that movie altered the chemistry of my brain, and has always been a big inspiration for me.
You get it. Oh my God, you get it. Oh.
Just this past Halloween, in fact, I showed that movie for the first time to my partner Campbell, because I just kept talking about how much I loved it, and she really enjoyed it. It's just such a fun, frolicking ride.
Oh yeah, nobody gets to know me without knowing about that movie.
Oh, that's fun.
Oh, so apart from your sad boy dreams, was your sad boy also your favorite character you've played, first and favorite, or was there another?
Oh gosh, first and favorite. That's hard. I mean, it's like picking a favorite child. But you know what? I will say my favorite right now is a character that I'm playing in a home game just with friends. I have found it very beneficial to also still just have campaigns that I'm doing for fun, you know, still pretty essential to this whole process. And so I play a game with friends, and in that one, I play Julien Dulac. He is a sort of disgraced half-elven nobleman who fought in a civil war and lost, and is now trying to redeem himself. So he's an Oath of Redemption paladin, and he's really fun. So not that far, I guess. Still a hot sad boy, but you know, you gotta stick with what you know.
Oath of Redemption is a tough one from just what I've seen, because I've run games for Oath of Redemption paladins, and it might have just been like a perfect storm of me having a lot of chaotic neutrals and one guy who wanted to be good. But Oath of Redemption seems tough depending on how much you lean into that.
Sure. Well, that's a great point. And I love classes like paladins and warlocks that have sort of those narrative hooks built into it. Paladin is one of my favorite classes in the game for sure, because, you know, the flavor of it is that you make a promise so hard that it gives you superpowers. I just love that as an idea. And so my Julian's whole thing is his acts of redemption is he has to sort of perform these acts of service for just all the people that the adventuring party comes across, and each good favor done, he feels like is a debt paid to one of the lives lost in the Civil War. And so he's like trying to sort of pay back over time in that way by doing good deeds and being an adventurer throughout the land.
Oh, that is such the one good thing for every life lost. That's such an interesting concept.
Yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with it.
That's awesome. How did you come up with it, or was it just like something that you thought of off the top of your head one day?
That was a big King Arthur mythology is a huge part of my sort of cultural understanding. The Once and Future King by T.H. White is maybe my favorite book of all time. I love knights. God help me. I know that they were basically just the medieval police, but I can't help it. I just love dudes on horses making promises. I love it. And so he is a manifestation of my deep love and appreciation for that area of mythology and storytelling.
Dudes on horses making promises. That's awesome.
That's what I love.
So yeah, I can totally see. Yeah, I'm a fan of the other side of the coin. I play a lot of clerics.
Right.
Because if I can't heal, I get nervous.
That's so funny. Campbell is very much the same way. Interesting.
It's like you have like the brain cell, right? Where if you can't heal in some way, it's like I can't control who dies. I don't like that.
I hear that. Well, luckily clerics are another of my favorites. They're just so strong. There's so much they can do. I think you could have a party of entirely clerics and just have a great time throughout a campaign. They're so versatile.
Yeah, like I think there's maybe I played a campaign a while ago where I played a rogue, and I took no levels in anything else, and I was just like, I'm never doing this again.
Well, listen, it takes all types. A balanced party takes all types. So thank you for being the faithful healers. We salute you.
Oh gosh, it feels so much better. I will never complain about it because I'm like, I need to control who dies.
I hear that. Mercy was my main when I played Overwatch back in the day.
Oh my god.
I get it.
I used to play Overwatch and then I quit when they did the first Mercy nerf, like way back.
Justice for our girl.
I know. If you had to pick a least favorite class in D&D to play for you personally, which would it be?
Oh, that's a great question. Least favorite. Well, you know what's funny? I've never played a bard, and I think it's because it's just so close. Because I've worked as a professional actor for so long. I think maybe it's just so close to what I do in my real life that I want to escape it a little bit in a fantasy setting, if that makes sense.
I totally get that, actually, because bard is one of the ones that I also go for, like, the least. Because I was a theater kid growing up. I did music school for a little bit in college. It's like, and I think bards also just get this like really kind of like set in stone like expectation of how they're to be played. Sure. Yeah, they get kind of a bad rap, and I never go for bards. Ever.
Yeah, I hear that. Although I do love playing against type when it comes to those kind of those like class archetypes, much like Julian, as I mentioned earlier. Yeah, but I hear that.
I won't lie. I saw the new Hunger Games movie, and now I'm like, I gotta be a bard.
I'll tell you what. I have been enjoying Bard in Baldur's Gate 3. That I have been having fun with.
Really? Oh my god! Wait, now I have to ask. Who did you romance in Baldur's Gate 3?
Okay, so here's the thing. I am a human being who is so dedicated to monogamy that even in my video games, there's always just a one and true for me. And in this case, it is, as you may have been able to guess, the one and only Shadowheart.
Yeah.
I can't look in her eyes for too long. What do you want me to say?
Oh my god.
Do I not bleed?
No, you're so real for that. I am kind of the same, except it's like I have to know every single way that every single thing can play out for a character. So it's like, yes, I've played the game 3 times. Yes, I have romanced Astarion every time because I have to know what happens when I make him worse.
I get it. He's begging for you to make him worse.
I have to make him worse. I have to know.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah. And
boy,
then
I love that game.
oh, it's so good. It's so good. And it just I haven't played the new patch yet, but apparently there's like epilogues and everything.
I know. Well, I still haven't even finished it because I kept restarting to try another class.
Yeah. I know so many people who are like that. I am like the opposite, where I'll play a game like that the first time and I'll skip all the little extra fun stuff in the world just so I can see the main plot.
Yeah, I hear
And then
that.
once I complete the main plot, I go back and I play it a second time, and then I do all the exploration.
That's smart. That's smart. But I gotta finish the game just to put a ring on it. I mean,
Yeah.
I gotta lock this thing down with Shadowheart.
Oh man, have you made it to Act 3 yet?
So that's the farthest I've made it is to like getting to the first part of Act 3, and then I feel the call to suddenly be a druid, and yeah, it's my cross to bear.
But your wife's plot resolution is in Act 3.
I know. I'm gonna get there one day. It's about the long game. It's about the long game with Baldur's
Her
Gate.
plot resolution is like one of the hardest fights that I hate it. Just letting you know.
I love a good hard fight. I play on Tactician. I'm so excited to try the new one, the honor mode.
Yeah. Yep. The masochism modes for you guys.
Give it to me.
I usually just go unbalanced because I'm like, I like to play for story things. Don't get in my way.
There's no wrong way to do it. No wrong way to do it.
Yeah. What's your least favorite class of Baldur's Gate 3? Because I feel like this is different from normal D&D.
It is somehow, yeah. I mean, it's a pretty faithful adaptation, but I think I haven't tried a ranger yet.
Okay.
Is probably the big one that I haven't tried. Though I've heard that you can do some pretty crazy things with them. So maybe I'll get there one of these days.
Yeah, I never play sorcerer, because I started it as a sorcerer and I was like, I hate this. Like, I hate the mechanic. I don't like how this plays.
I hear that.
Yeah, sorcerers are they feel a lot more fun, I think, in like actual games. Because that's, I think, when the meta magic stuff it's so good for just clutching things.
Yeah, and there's a lot of ways that you can. There's a lot of meta magic utility that you get outside of combat that is not necessarily represented in Baldur's Gate because it's so focused on the combat systems.
Yes, like whenever I use subtle spell to like cheat and do things, and nobody has to know.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I'm playing a divine soul sorcerer in the Strahd game that I play every week.
Great. Oh, that must be fun.
Oh, it's something.
I'll bet he loves the fact that you're divinely inherited.
Well, one of the things that my DM changed, one of the big things that he changed, was we got there. Irina was deceased.
Oh gosh.
Oh yeah, I got put in that spot instead.
That's brutal. No. Oh yikes, yowzers, yabba dabba. That's something.
It's something.
Lucky you.
Lucky me.
Oh boy. Wow.
Yeah,
that's a twist.
he blindsided me with that, which he was really good, by the way. He sent me like this huge like message and was like, "Hey, I just wanted to check that if you're okay with this like whole plot thing playing out the way it is. Like, I don't want you to think it's just like, you know, being creepy. Like, just, you know, let me know if you ever want to change it." So he was really good about it.
No, I think that's great, and yeah, that's a great thing for DMs to do, you know, because it's great to be able to like thrust players into conditions like that and make, you know, big events turn around, but you always want to be making sure that it's stuff folks are comfortable with. So that's an A+ play. Yeah.
Do you guys do the like, I know that some DMs do the like the lines and veils and stuff like that. Do you guys do any sort of like safety tools, or because you're all like friends, or are you more like kind of in tune with each other?
Yeah, absolutely. Nothing so specific as that. We have all known each other for a long time, and there's an enormous amount of trust, you know, built up between all of us. We have a safe word in place just in case anybody does ever need to put a hard stop on things. But otherwise, there's a lot of trust that bounces around between us. And so that's not to say that boundaries and walls and lines and things like that aren't a great idea. They are, especially if it is a group of people who don't know each other that well. Just to have all that stuff sort of out in the open to begin with can oftentimes, I think, make it even easier to build closer relationships faster, just because everyone knows where everyone is at and everybody knows everybody is safe. Safety is such an essential part of laughter and fun and joy. Those positive emotions can only exist in a safe environment. And so it behooves you as a DM to make sure everyone feels comfortable, because they'll just have a better time in your story and in your campaign.
Yeah, and it's important for DMs to sort of be able to put that kind of stuff in place too for themselves. I think
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, I think that DMs often like get overlooked on that sort of thing. But there's sometimes some things that maybe you just don't want to run, or you kind of like somebody's trying to push your story in a way that you just don't feel comfortable with.
Totally.
Yeah, it's good that you guys are you seem like you communicate with each other very well, and I think that's really important. I can tell that everybody seems very in tune. Even like if the vibe starts going like a certain way, like you're all very vocal about, hey, can I take a 5 minute or something like that. And I think it's really good to be able to be like upfront about stuff like that, especially in such like I don't want to say it's not like an emotional hobby, but it's a hobby that requires you to sort of like put a part of yourself into like a situation. So
absolutely, like this is all pretend, but the thing is, we use our real feelings to play the game. There are real emotions on the line during this thing, and that is not a fact to be overlooked. Even if it is all make believe, we're really feeling these things, and so a certain amount of care needs to be taken for sure.
Yeah, I think people the words like character bleed get thrown around a lot and things like that. And I think it's just kind of inevitable that every character you play is going to have a little bit of you in there somewhere.
I think they should. I think that the best, I have often sort of described my way of making characters is I'll take just a little piece of myself and extrapolate it into a whole other formed human being. There's a character in the Strahdcast, an NPC, Pasha, who is my love of nature and the things that I overcame as a youngin'. And there is Dimitri, who is my love of knowledge and learning, and Julian Dulac is my love of chivalry and knights and that sort of way of living and culture. And yeah, I think D&D characters essentially are pieces of ourselves.
I do love Pasha. He's so baby. He's so good. I don't think I have cried at anything that you guys have done, except for like I cry about Pasha sometimes. Just like, he's so baby.
Me too. He was a real success. Yeah, he was a new addition to the campaign this time around. It's being the second time I went through it, I wanted to add some elements that were new for me too entirely. And he's been just a real success. I wasn't sure exactly what his tale would be, but that he's become so endeared to both the party and the people watching has me really excited.
He fills me with the strength that mothers use to lift cars off their children.
Thank you. That is a huge compliment. Thank you so much.
Was he meant to sort of just be like a little side thing, like, oh, there's a boy in a cage, and then they sort of just picked him up and were like, he's ours now? Like,
yeah, I don't know. I try not to plan too far ahead with anything in a D&D campaign, because you could just never quite be sure. And I have found myself, when I do try to think too far ahead, that can sometimes lead to the impulse to want to try to maneuver events to get to that outcome, right? So I kind of like to stay more immediate. But there was always the hope, of course, was always that they would fall in love and adopt him, and he would be a big part of the campaign. And that's what we've seen borne out. So I'm really excited about it.
Oh, that's so awesome. Yeah, he was not something that I expected. I think with the first episode that he was introduced, I was actually driving home on like a really long drive,
Mm,
and listening to you guys when I was in the car. It was like this 4 hour drive and this little guy, and I was like, oh my god, this little
baby
guy
boy.
better be okay.
I know. I know.
Oh my
Oh.
goodness.
Yeah,
Um,
I've had multiple fans of the podcast threaten me bodily harm if anything ever happens to Pasha. So.
really. If anything happens to Pasha, I'll kill everyone in Barovia and then myself.
Yeah, exactly. That's right.
Oh no.
Mm-hmm.
Oh goodness. All right. We're getting probably towards like the last like handful of like
Sure.
minutes here. I have to ask you, and if you don't know anything about this, it's okay, but like if you had to give Strahd a zodiac sign, what would it be? Because I have opinions, but I want to know for you.
I don't know a ton about zodiacs, but I think my instinct is Scorpio. Does that seem right?
I also think he's a Scorpio.
Great. I nailed it. I nailed it. I nailed it.
He killed it. I was like, God, I hope he says Scorpio.
There you go. There you go. Well, he's pretty venomous, so it seems a fair choice.
So true. I was like, he's got to be a water sign. He's a very much giving water sign.
That's great. That's awesome.
So I guess if you had like any advice to anybody who, because I have a lot of people that watch my channel that are like kind of on the fringes of D&D, but have never like played it. If you could give any advice to anybody kind of like wanting to start D&D but are being like intimidated of it, what would you tell them?
Yeah, just be brave. It's and if it doesn't work out the first time, don't let that knock you off of it entirely. It's at its best. At its best, Dungeons and Dragons is an unparalleled tool for self-improvement. But at its worst, it can be a really negative experience for people just based on who else is in the room. Because it is a game that relies on other people, there's an inherent amount of unsurety. So if you have a group of people that you trust, or a group of people that are excited about it, great, go for it, get into it, give it a shot. If you don't have anyone else in your immediate circle that is jazzed about it, there are still a lot of resources. There's lots of ways you can find online for finding places to play, and lots of different ways to get into it. But I would just say, give it a shot. Be brave, be bold, be adventurous, and stick at it, because it's a wonderful, wonderful hobby to get into.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for finding time to have a little chat. Thank you. I appreciate it so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This has been really lovely and fun.
Of course.